And so I was just like, okay. I understood where they were coming from when they were telling me that I needed to do this. I could understand, to reconnect to my ancestors so that they recognize me. But I was like, but why did our ancestors, why did our women do that? Because they were the queens. You know, the Agikuyu nation is a matriarchy, even if the men are in charge right now.
According to mainstream media says that the characteristics of a matriarchy, it says that women are often the head of the house, which is not true in the Agikuyu community. Inheritance is through the female line, which is also not true in the Agikuyu community. And women make business decisions, which is also, I'd like not to say is not as true, but they are given an idea of what is happening, just in case something goes down that was not supposed to happen, but they don't make the business decision also. So the Agikuyu community cannot be a matriarchal society. It is not. It is just how they present themselves, because they understand. You see, the Agikuyu community is a very spiritual community. They realize that our body are feminine in nature. The body is receptive to the consciousness. So the consciousness is the father and the body is the mother. That's why you see this father-mother thing in the Agikuyu community. You see, even the name Agikuyu is derived from the Gikuyu, who's the leader of the community. And we all realize that we come from the house of Mumbi, and everyone is proud to say that they come from the house of Mumbi. Why? Because it is the body that is receptive to the consciousness of being, and the consciousness is representative of Gikuyu, the body is representative of Mumbi, because our physical nature is subject to the unseen world. So that's what I'd say about why people might confuse the Agikuyu society to being matriarchal. It's not matriarchal according to me. Yeah. So let's continue on with this video.
What was that practice all about? And by the way, I was surrounded by men. It was very awkward because, you know, it's a kind of, when you go to these things, it's like a judge and court situation. Like, you all sit there, everyone tells their case and everyone else is hearing.
Yeah.
And it came down to the fact that it was something that women did to bond them to the earth. And it was all about the first blood and connecting, you know, the first blood to Mama Earth. And like, there was a very deep ritual to ensure that the land remained in our bloodlines. But somehow, now this is my own interpretation, when patriarchy and everything invaded the Agikuyu nation, it became about a woman cutting herself. When I really believe it was more about your first menstrual cycle and dedicating that first menstrual cycle to the earth. And, you know, there are things, I mean, this is probably too advanced for many, but I know I have a very big sisterhood of Agikuyu.
She says that, according to her, after the patriarchy invaded, and I agree, after the patriarchy invaded, it now became a sort of disformation of the woman's clitoris. Yeah, so that's her opinion. I also have my opinion, because see, we understand that in times of war, great measures have to be taken. So the period that she's talking about, when the patriarchy infiltrated, these were the men that wanted dominion over our cultures. When they infiltrated, that's what I would like to think she's talking about. When the colonialists invaded our community, it is this time that our elders or our spiritual guiders in the Agikuyu community, decided to create a form of separation from the invaders, and they realized that this is just my opinion. They might have realized that these people might come in and make children that with their women, so they decided to cut the women off from the spiritual realm, and that involved the deformation of the clitoris. I'm a big fan of the clitoris. The clitoris, I think it's very spiritual. I don't think it should be interfered with. It's actually something that needs to be figured out spiritually. So I think they did this because they wanted the people that could come into their daughters not get a fully spiritually awakened person. Like the interference, they did this to interfere with, if the seed of the foreign man comes into the woman, it will not be as viable as the seed with the one who has her portal open, and that is the clitoris. So that's what I think about that. Yeah, so let's continue with Dr. Mumbi's show.
And so the whole purpose of the ritual was to give that blood back to Mama Earth, the way you give the placenta back to Mama Earth, as a sign of honor, because it was such a big thing. But now with men running it, so I was like, okay, so if the purpose is for me to connect to my earth, to connect to the land, then why am I going to some back end? Because they were like, no, it doesn't even have to be complicated. It can be a very minor procedure. But how is that? So I was like, so then, okay, sorry, this is going to get graphic. I asked them, I was like, so then do I collect the blood and take it to the land, or what happens? And they were like, no, it's just for it to be there so it can be seen. And so after that, beloveds, I was talking to my friend as we were driving back, and he was like, yeah, I saw that was where they're going. But he was like, but these people are judges, so they will give you the recipe. You'll go and you'll tell them your issue, and they will tell you what you need to do. And it's up to you.
So I understand that most of the Agikuyu community is based on the blood. Like, the blood is the main thing. It's the most sacred thing. It's just like in the Bible. The blood is the most sacred of all things in a being. So them telling her to shed the blood is something that it will not come to surprise me that much. But she follows up by saying it is not necessary for the blood to be taken to the earth. Now, I don't think that is true, because I will not champion that. So this is also my opinion on that. If it has to happen like that, if you tell her to go through a procedure like that, then the blood should be taken to the mountain, the Mount Kirinyaga. And it is at Mount Kirinyaga where our ancestors and our main spirits lie. So our main spirits dwell there. So them telling her it's just for a sign, I'd also not buy it, because that's very superficial of them to say that. But if they were to take the blood, take it maybe to Mount Kirinyaga, maybe do some sacrifices and things like that, maybe sacrifice a goat or a ram, I'd buy that. But if they say it's just for a sign, no, I'd also not buy that. Yeah.
And it's up to you to decide what you're going to do. Because you see, he also reminded me of the Agikuyu nation. Back in the day, when with the Agikuyu nation, every family had their medicinal garden. So they knew when you have a stomachache, you take this. When you have a headache, you take that. I mean, like almost 80% of the ailments they faced, they could usually deal with within their homestead. Every home had their medicine woman or medicine man. And it was the most complicated of cases, which were usually spiritual in nature. It was only in the most complicated of cases that you sought a medicine man or a medicine woman.
Yeah.
Which means that.
So I'd also like to agree with her on that every family, because for me I'm championing that it is the families, these families, the Agikuyu community, like the governance was based on a family. So or maybe that's a monarch, or I don't know, but it is in the family that there was governance. So every family had their medicine person, and this medicine person could also perform some rituals. So the medicine person was also could use the magic of the community. They were initiated in the magics of the community and the rituals and all that. And it's true, only when it was tough for them was it that they could now go and visit their modomogo ama their medicine man to get a further descriptive solution. Yeah, so that I agree with very much.
I mean, we're already connected, but if I want to do that, you see, that ritual was about land and ownership. There's nothing more powerful than that in reclaiming land that has been taken. But
so she also touches on reclaiming the land, our land that has been taken, and this is a very major thing in the Agikuyu community, because our land, the Agikuyu community believe that our land has been taken from us and we no longer own the Agikuyu community land. And that is not the only reason for us, for the Agikuyu community to believe that, because they understand that our system of government is not in the favor of the people of the land. It is in the favor of the queen. The queen owns the land in every country in the whole world, or in the allied countries of the British system. So our land is not ours. Even when you go to take a title deed, you are given a lease. You are told you are the one taking care of this land, but the land is not yours. Something might happen and the land might be taken away from you. There's that option, but the land is not yours. Even the land is not our government's land. It is, the land belongs to the queen, or the land belongs to the crown. Yeah, we can talk more about that if you want to talk more about that. There is even Agikuyu people talking about it online. Yeah.
you see, it became about the clitoris, which is like the greatest pleasure point for women, and deforming the clitoris. So how does that connect to pouring blood? I think patriarchy took it, and this is now my own personal opinion, and made it about, trying to calm down the sexuality of women. And then now it became, and it was women on women, by the way, it became so distorted that a lot of women suffer serious injuries from this. But it's not even about that. That's the physical level of that thing. Because it's been distorted, it now becomes something.
So another thing about this thing about distortion of the clitoris. You see, in the Agikuyu community, it is said that the cat used to help control the women and their sexual desires, thus creating a woman that is more how can I say it, more loyal, or a woman that is not driven by her desires, by her sexual desires. But this, I think, was robbing the women of their development spiritually and psychologically, because it is up to them to make the decision that should they allow their desires to be controlled by their lower self, or should they allow their desires to be controlled by their higher self. But I think the elders made the decision for the women and decided that the women should be cut. This was also to allow or to prevent, as I said earlier, the interaction of the female of the Agikuyu with the females, with the males of the invading white tribes or the invading colonialists. So yeah, so that's it. You see, I really like her show because she always encourages you to think for yourself. She always pushes you to make your own, I wouldn't say thoughts, but it's like something that triggers you to find out more on what you yourself could find out. So I always had people to go back to their cultural beliefs, but because it is in our cultures that we will find the solution to everything that is happening, and through our cultures will we have one Africa, or not in a global state, but there will be unity in Africa. And if there were those fights that they used to say there were between us, mostly I know there was quarrels between the Agikuyu and the Maasai. Now, because we have a language, we can use the language that we have to correct these disputes, and through this we can share what their culture believes or practices, and other cultural practices, and this, I believe, will bring us together. And by doing this, we'll have a very fruitful Africa, and maybe we will start calling our shots from our side and not be a source to be planted upon by the first world countries. I mean, we all need some type of power in this world to exist. So yeah, that's my video about this. Like, comment and subscribe, and always embrace your culture.